Meanwhile, the community of Senekal is on edge ahead of the court appearance of two men accused of the murder of Brendin Horner. The economic freedom fighters have already confirmed they will be present. But what is the feeling of local farmers in the area? Let's get you a sense of the situation there. Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi is in the Free State for us and joins us now live. Linda, this is a situation that has been building for some days now, almost over a week now. What's the sense you're getting on the ground in Senekal?
Well, a very good morning to you, Michelle. You'll remember that, the economic freedom fighters had already said that they would be coming to the area to defend state property because police failed to do so. We also heard that issue in court earlier in the week where the magistrate was like, well, certainly commended the police for not doing anything because they said that it would cost lives. Any reaction to the two shots that were fired would cost, innocent lives in the court. But of course, that issue getting a lot of reaction from religious leaders. But yesterday we got an opportunity to speak to the local farmers, Michelle, and this is what they had to say.
I asked the farmers to stay away from the courts. Do not confront this political agenda that the EFF is running now, because it is a political agenda for them. And as the Minister of State Security asked us to not make this to score political points. So we asked the Senekal community to stay away. Do not come to court. Let the police do their job, and let the law take its course.
So, Linda, speaking of the law taking its course, let's just turn our attention for a moment to Andre Pienaar. He's the man who was arrested in connection with the unrest outside Senekal last week when those two accused in the murder of Brendin Horner, when they appeared in court. So as I understand it, we've been reporting that Andre Pienaar has been charged with inciting public violence, but it also now appears that he's been charged with attempted murder. How did that come about?
Well, it's one of the three charges. You'll remember, Michelle, initially the state had three charges and wanted to add another provisional charge of terrorism, but they also had to wait for the authorization of the NDPP. Now, in the last court appearance, we heard that the NDPP has not, in fact, authorized that charge, so that particular charge does not stand. So at this point, he's facing charges of malicious damage to property, public violence, as well as attempted murder. Now, how the attempted murder charge comes into the picture here, we heard in court that when they stormed into the court building, demanding, to take law into their own hands, demanding the release of the two accused. There were two shots that were fired. We were also told, Michelle, that the two accused were injured and had to seek immediate medical attention. So that is how this charge came about. But of course, the lawyer is arguing that in fact there was no proof that Andre was the one behind the two shots that were fired, and that even the organized crime head in the province was merely speculating, saying that at this point it is speculation because he's not seen actively doing that. He's not seen actively, firing the shots, or is he seen violating anybody. But of course, you'll remember that there was the issue of assault as well on the police officer. The magistrate saying that, well, he can be seen trying to push the officer that was trying to stop them from entering the court building. So that's how those charges are coming, up, Michelle, at this point. So it's malicious damage to property, public violence, as well as attempted murder.
And just yesterday, in fact, the court in Senekal denying Andre Pienaar's bid for bail, he now takes that case all the way to the High Court in Bloemfontein.
Indeed, Michelle, it's all because the defense says there was no proof that he was in fact actively involved, and that a certain portion of the community would like to see him get bail. You'll remember that there are two groups that are pulling to the side here, people that have slammed the people that were in court and incited this violence, but the state saying that he was in fact influential and was the one that incited this violence by giving that speech. It showed that he had influence, because shortly after that speech, the people that were gathered outside court moved from the grounds, which is a couple of meters away from the court. They went straight into court, and about 100 of them tried to storm into the court, where even that police officer was allegedly assaulted. So the defense really saying that he is a man of violence, and if anyone tries to stand in his way, he uses violence, to try and push them away. So at this point, they feel like, well, he's basically not being, granted freedom. It's unnecessary that he be kept in custody, and that he should be released. Michelle.
So, Linda, tomorrow we are building up to the court appearance of those two suspects that are in custody in connection with the murder of that 21-year-old farm manager, Brendin Horner, in neighboring Paul Rue. It does seem that there is a recipe for that kind of unrest to play itself out in Senekal. Yet again, we know that EFF leader Julius Malema has called on party members to descend on Senekal, he says, to defend public property. In terms of what you're hearing, Linda, what are the kinds of preparations that officials, police officials and the like, are making to prepare for what looks to be another day of unrest in that town?
Well, Michelle, if the past court appearances are anything to go by, what we've been seeing outside the Senekal Magistrates Court is a high police presence. Police, being in the area, making sure that they're keeping anyone who wants to come to court basically at bay. So it seems those plans will stay the same, given the fact that there is already people that have said that they want to come to court. You'll remember the ministers visiting the area just a couple of days ago, urging the community to not take the law into their own hands. And it seems that in particular is the reason why the Senekal farming community is calling for other farmers to stay away and let the law take its course. Later on in the day, we'll be speaking to Brigadier Magele to get a sense of what exactly the plan is. But we've also heard, Michelle, from religious leaders, seemingly, painting a picture that there could possibly be violence. And this is the time where leadership should step in. They are calling on all leaders to play their part in the community to make sure that there is no instability and no violence. In fact, they're saying that we don't want any war in our community. In fact, at this particular point, it is a time for us to stand together, to bring everyone together in the quest to finding justice. Michelle?
Thanks very much for that update. Great to see you there, Linda, joining us live there ahead of that court appearance tomorrow in Senekal. And we also know that our colleague, Pauline Gambi, will in fact be speaking to Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF, at 10 o'clock this morning.